Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from Innova.buzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the Innova.buzz today from Pune in India, which is a little town near Mumbai, I'm told. Ali Hafizji, who's the CEO of Wednesday Solutions. Ali leads a unique product engineering company with a critical mission to help founders avoid the pain, the waste, and the chaos that so often kills startups. He provides a systematic and a clear path for moving from a minimal viable product to product market fit really fast. Welcome to the Innova.buzz podcast, Ali. It's a real privilege to have you as my guest.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to chat with you and through you, your audience.
Excellent. Now, before we dive into our conversation today, just a quick note for listeners, particularly if you're new to the podcast here. Each episode's a candid conversation and a practical conversation with a remarkable guest like Ali. I like to unpack their knowledge, their attitudes, their values, and how they can translate into action for all of us. And I start with a big picture, then dig into stories, strategies, and actionable ideas, hopefully something that you can use right away. And at the end, we wrap up with our signature buzz round, 3 rapid fire questions I ask of every guest. Now, all the links and the resources and highlights will be in the show notes later on, so you can revisit anything that sparks your curiosity. So hopefully you feel like you're at the table here with me, with Ali, and we're all learning together. Ali, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. What struck me is your logical approach to solving what is often a very emotional problem for founders, the fear of failure. So share for us all what drives that mission and what impact you aim to make in the world today.
Well, we're just trying to help founders, cross this chasm of MVP and really move into the shoes of actually being a business owner. Most founders who actually build out their MVP, they're not really acting like business owners, they're acting like builders. So we're on a mission to actually convert these um, sort of minimum viable products to actual businesses. Our goal for this year is to just help 50 founders do that.
Yeah, that's a very clear goal. So when you make that distinction between business owners and builders,
Mhm.
can you explain that a little more for us?
Yeah, so our clientele primarily includes like people who are trying to build a digital business. And when they're building a digital business, they're primarily offering a digital product to a select group of people. It can be, most of the times what we observed is that people who are trying to build a digital product have ideally experienced the problem that they're trying to solve themselves. For example, I may be a lawyer and I have found that, let's say, if doing research for a specific type of case can take a very long period of time. And I might come up with a digital solution that solves that problem. You can go out and build an MVP and then show it to a few people that you already know, which creates that minimum viable product. Mm, At this phase, what founders are actually doing is that they're really just building the product, not the business. And what we've noticed is if founders continue to do this, which is if their day to day is just about building the product, micromanaging what gets done, thinking about features, sort of falling for this build trap, they don't cross the chasm and move into becoming an actual business. So we think that just the way that a child needs to do different things at each stage of growth, so does a founder. So to prove if something works, you need to build. And I think now there's enough in terms of the tools that are available with AI, vibe coding, all of these things that are happening around us. They shouldn't need help to build something um, to show it to a few people. But after that, they need to stop doing that, change their day to day, and only then will they actually hit that next developmental milestone.
Yeah, that's a fascinating distinction, and I'm struck because a lot of business owners start their product or service that way, right? They realize, hey, I have a need in this area. This is a task that is taking me too long, or it's a task that I could automate, or I could build an app that will do it for me, and that will save me a lot of time and money. So I go ahead and build that app, and then I say, well, there must be other people that have the same issue. So then I start to show it to other people. They get excited. Then I say, okay, I can start to build a business around that. But the trap that you're alluding to, I think, is that when I've shown that to other people, they say, that's fantastic, but could it do that as well? And could it do this as well? And maybe the interface is not user friendly as much. And so then I go back and I make some enhancements to address all the feedback. And then I'm a builder, right, instead of the business owner. And the second risk I see there also is if I successfully launch that product and I get enough people on board, I think this is fantastic. I might go and build another product because I've got this other idea that is also an issue that I'm having, and I'm sure other people have it. So you kind of get into that stage. How do you address the mindset there of people of that builder mindset, if you like, to say, well, do you really want to build a business from this? And if you do, then you need to change your mindset. You need to become the business owner, not the builder.
I think, I've gone through this myself. I've been to digital business before this, and I've sort of fallen for this trap myself. It's not very easy. I think it's a choice. I can just give people advice and say that, because there are many people who will turn around and say that, hey, there is this indie game developer or app developer who is doing X dollars in revenue and he's just building all the time. There are examples like that as well. But they may be outliers. They are not the norm. But I really think it's a choice. And if you choose, and I think, as you go in your journey, as you move ahead, you will come across this problem where no matter what you do in your day to day, it won't move the needle. For example, if you're building a digital business and your day to day is just about building, let's say you have a small team of freelancers, or let's say you even raised a small round of investment and you've hired a few developers or designers, etc. All you're doing is just sort of giving them things to do, etc. You'll realize at a certain point that no matter how hard you try, it's not moving the needle. The problem is that you need to change. And some people may come to that realization, or some people may hear me say this through you and come through that realization. But that is the litmus test. If you realize that no matter what you do, things aren't changing, you probably need to change first. And you need to change what you're doing. And what we advise people is that after you finish doing the MVP, the founder really needs to do 4 things, which is you need to do marketing, sales, fundraising, and gathering insights. And you need to work with a team, and you can hire this team, get a partner, figure that out. And we can talk about how to evaluate this and how do you hire the right people. But you need to get a team that can convert these insights into a digital offering. Or maybe don't do anything, or just say that, hey, this does not make sense. There isn't anything to do here, but stop building. And it's a very big change if you think about it from the founder's lens, because here he's just building every day. But now I'm saying that you need to stop doing that and you need to go market things. You need to go talk to customers. You need to go talk to investors and see if they're willing to fund, let's say, our next round. And you just need to gather and get a lot of information from different sets of people, and really work with a team who can convert that and use that and see if there is something that can be used in your digital offering.
Yeah, there's a lot there, isn't there? And I think even today, where it's more it's easier than ever, and particularly in the area of coding. You mentioned vibe coding before,
Mhm.
and I know, I mean, I'm not a software engineer or a coder, but I've built some little apps for myself using vibe coding tools, and it's pretty exciting when you see something come up and it works,
Mm.
and all you have to do is type in what you want in English, normal conversational language, and then you go back and you say, well, this doesn't quite work the way I want it to, and then it fixes it all up, and there you have an app. But the I mean, there's a couple of issues I see there. This was me just being curious and testing something out for my own application. The next step is, as you say, if you turn that into a business, you need to start thinking like a business owner and address all those things. Is there a viable market there? Can I get input to find out what users actually value in something like this and then build that back in? Can I get investment to grow the company? Can I scale this up? What else do I need? Can I sell? So that's kind of a whole different skill set. The other risk I see there is, because it's so easy now for somebody to do a little app like that,
Mhm.
is thinking long term. Because I looked at that and I said, this is really cool. I should actually show this to some other people, but and see what they think. But it's not my business. And I
Okay.
thought, well, if I leave it long term, then all of a sudden I've got to address security issues in the back end of the coding of that, and I've got no idea about that because I don't even know what the code looks like. The security issue, the updates, the all the other things that software engineers would be all over, but the ongoing maintenance. So talk to us a little bit about that step, because obviously your business is about the software side of that,
Yeah.
and about people taking that first step, building something that is easy to do through one of these vibe codings, and then saying, okay, what do I do next?
I think AI is an extremely powerful enabler, but it has to be used correctly. So I mean, I'm completely for. We are in the age where building is easy, but building right is very difficult. Because there's so much chaos and noise around you. People are saying all sorts of things on social media. It's very easy to fall for that trap saying, hey, I built this over a weekend, but how many people are actually using it? Is it really a viable business? Nobody knows these things. And I also think that building a business is a journey. You have to go through the ups and downs to be able to, and there are enough examples around us that show that, if you don't go through those ups and downs, you eventually don't make it. Um, but I feel like we are in the age of hyper specialization as well as focus. So, for example, you really need to um, stop listening to the chaos around you. It's very easy to fall for that trap saying, hey, look, I built this app. I can build another thing. I can build it. It's confidence boosting, right? But it's not really about that. It's not about building an app. That's just a piece of output. That's not an outcome. An outcome for your business is actually moving, let's say, um, revenue or some kind of like tangible business metric. Um, and for that, you need to focus. And you need to focus on a few things that you need to do every day, which may be very difficult to do, and stop falling for whatever's around you. Coming back to software development, I do think that it's very important to work. Um, i- i- it's very important to acknowledge that AI exists and you need to use it. So, my advice to founders is use it to build an MVP. Prove that there is something here. Get the conviction that you need to actually back that idea that you had by showing it to a couple of people that you know and see if they're willing to pay for it. But then after you cross that point, after you've sort of got that conviction saying, I want to do this, there's something in it here. Um, then work with people who are AI enabled, like work with people who are AI first. Maybe hire a couple of software engineers who use a lot of AI, who know how to use it well, or work with a partner or figure it out, but make sure that this is a key criteria for you to work with somebody. Don't work with somebody who doesn't use AI. And there are ways that you can test and see if these people are actually using, AI to get you outcome. Um, for example, they should be doing a lot more compared to a developer that doesn't use AI. They should also be able to think about product and a lot of other things. But I do think that at some point I mean, to software, AI is an absolute enabler to software development as well as to owners of digital businesses.
Hmm. So how do you integrate AI into your day-to-day work at Wednesday Solutions?
For us, founders really come to us at this point where they have, either they've built something themselves, they're a part of an accelerator, they've raised some small sums of money from, let's say, angel investors, etc. And now they're sort of moving towards trying to find BMF. So we start by first assessing what they've built. Um, let's say they've built a legal tech product or a health tech product, whatever it is. And then what we do is we create like a small pod. It may be, let's say, a product person, a designer, and an engineer. But all of these guys are AI enabled. They use a lot of AI to do what this. So the same pod that didn't use AI, we're targeting to get at least 2x the outcome
Mm-hmm.
just by using AI. So, for example, a product manager would use a lot of AI to do a lot of documentation, a lot of the research, a lot of the reporting, a lot of the analytics. An engineer is actually going to use a lot of AI to actually build the features out. Designers are going to use a lot of AI to, let's say, do research on graphics, do a lot of variations, things like that. But the goal is to really increase speed. But velocity is actually a component of direction and speed. So let's say we're running a typical sprint. What we're going to do is we're going to figure out with the founder, what needs to be accomplished here. So they set the direction. So they give us the insights that they're gathering because now they're not building anymore. All they're doing is, let's say, talking to people. They're gathering insights. They're figuring out, let's say they spoke to 5 people in legal tech. They told them different things. They're going to come and share it with us. We're going to distill it and create a roadmap saying the data that you've given us is telling us that we need to do this. Now, ideally, what would have taken us 2 sprints, we're going to get done in 1 sprint because we are going to use a lot of AI. It might be an insight that we might get that helps sell the product. So, for example, we might make a lot of changes to the design of the landing page. We might make a lot of changes to the way that the customer is onboarded. We might change the entire onboarding journey. It might have messaging that might have, um, come out of a conversation that the founder had with that prospective client. But the goal is really to use the insights that the founder gets and convert that into a digital offering. And we want to influence every part of the digital journey that a customer would take, right from, acquisition, which is signing up for a product, retention, which is, coming back, engagement using different features, referral, revenue. All of these different aspects can be um, tweaked depending upon the insights that the founder is getting. So what we do is we run an AI-enabled sprint that we're calling a vibe sprint, with the goal of just giving the founder as much time as he needs to just focus on gathering insights. And we're going to get more done in a small amount of time.
That's interesting. So, and yeah, that process, clearly I can see how that enables the founder to transition to that business owner role. And certainly if he's getting very fast turnaround of iterations based on the input and data he's gathering from your team, that kind of encourages him, her, or her even more to continue to be the founder more than the builder. One of the things you kind of alluded it a little bit there, but what's the unique human advantage there above the AI doing a lot of these tasks?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because I think that the human advantage over there is that um, is really having the ability to say no. So, for example, it's very easy to fall for these traps which are all over you. For example, you may be very influenced by what your competitors are doing, but they may be far ahead in their journey than you. Um, and those business decisions that they are taking, it actually makes sense for that stage that they are in. You may be very influenced by, let's say, what your investors are saying. You may be influenced by, let's say, a conversation that you had with a client, but not every conversation gives you insights. So some may be just conversations, and then you have to take it at face value. Um, you may also be very influenced by, let's say, a parallel product that somebody built in another area that you might feel like, hey, here's an experience that my user might enjoy. The advantage of having humans in this sprint is that we believe that it's a back and forth conversation between the founder and the team that really builds a very sharp digital product. So our experience of working with so many founders has been is that if the founder builds their team, it's a relationship where whatever the founder says needs to be done. But if it's a two-way dialogue where our team is just really making the founder focus and trying to ask the tough questions, saying, okay, we got this data, you had this conversation, this investor said this, but what business metric is it going to move for you? Is it going to increase the number of signups? Is it going to increase the number of referrals? Is it going to increase engagement? If yes, let's run a small experiment if there is merit. If there is no merit, if you can't answer that question, then let's not do it. But you really need to have a consulting approach with the founder so that you say no to a lot of things. And you only pick the experiments that are going to move the business needle. And those are things that we really enjoy doing, because you'll be surprised, because as you're in that early journey of finding product market fit, you're just bombarded with ideas of all the things that you
Mm.
can possibly build, because building things just seems so easy nowadays. um, but having somebody to actually say no, how is this going to help you? Is this what your user really needs? The analytics does not show that people need this. What business metric is it? Maybe you might have an idea for, let's say, increase the number of referrals that your clients may be giving. But is this really something that you want to prioritize right now? Don't you think you need
Mm.
to just focus on getting more people to actually use the product? Maybe we need to focus all our energy over there, right? It's very important to have this back and forth so that you're building fast, but also in the right direction.
Mm. So it occurs to me that what you're saying there, in that conversation, I mean, that's a very human centered conversation, and it bases very much on judgment calls based on experience in different areas, right?
Right. It is, all startups are um, trying to make it, but within the resources that they have. They have limited time, they have limited money. All of these things are constraints. You want to make the best possible decisions, making sure you don't run out of these things. Only then you're able to make it. I'll give you an
Mm.
example. Um, for the longest time, Instagram didn't even have an Android app. They just focused on making their experience perfect on iOS. And even today, I feel like their Android app is just a copy of their iOS app. That's the kind of focus that you need. Snapchat, for the longest time, had only one feature, which was just sending a picture to somebody else that, wasn't there once they saw it. That's it. They didn't do anything else.
Mm.
Like, that's the amount of focus that you need to find product market fit. Just imagine how much they've said no to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an area, particularly now with this vibe coding, where you can do so much. And I know I've experienced this myself in a couple of the little apps I just built for myself, experimenting, because you see something now. Oh, I could add this little bell here, and I could add this little whistle here, and so I imagine that that's a very real risk if you're build out as a product that is supposed to be core to a business, and having that ability to have the dialogue with a team that can build that very quickly and add those bells and whistles very quickly, but at the same time also come back and say, do we really need those bells and whistles? Is that going to kind of get us to the outcome we're looking for quicker or better, or generate more revenue, more users, whatever it might be?
I'll give you another example. It might be interesting. So, um, Google Plus, which is Google's response to Facebook. I don't
Yeah.
even know if people know of that name anymore, but
Yeah, it's a blast from the past. Yeah.
exactly right. So they started with the entire idea over there was, I think they bought Orkut, and then they told their team saying that, we've missed the social bus, go figure it out. And they literally
Mm,
copied, like, they built everything that Facebook had and so much more. And every person who had a Google account already was onboarded to Google Plus, and they were just expected to figure it out, right? They didn't go through the journey of gathering their own insights.
mm,
They should have started small, for a small group of people, really focused, learned, and then expanded to be big. They didn't do that. They started with everything, and now they are nowhere.
mm. No, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, they had Google Photos as kind of more or less died as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And the at the time, I thought they had a really good product in Google Photos, and I thought they could have used that as the core of a Google Plus type product. And like you say, focus on not try to copy Facebook, but introduce some photo sharing as the first round. I think that could well have worked very well, because I think that's one of the things that Instagram now is focused on.
I think even if you're a large company, the recipe remains the same. You know,
Mm,
Even if you're a Google and you want to build a new product in social, you just cannot start without having your own insights. You have to still start small. You have to still hyper focus, even though you have the resources of Google. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Yeah, you have to go through focusing on a small set of users, building a few features, focusing on those features, continue to gather your insights, and then really build out a product journey that is unique to you and your strengths. Um, it never works out. The same recipe that I'm talking to you about, founders who've got some funding and MVP, it is true for a large company trying to build a parallel product. The journey is the same.
mm.
It's there's no difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I know you've said that innovation is providing value, but it's also a system. And that reminds me of in my days in the corporate world, I was always saying that innovation is actually a system, but most people think of it as no, we're creatives. Creation is very chaotic. It's unpredictable. I mean, one day I'll have an idea in the shower, and if you constrain me into a system, I that hinders those ideas. So talk to us a little bit about the feeling of being inside a system of innovation and how that actually helps, and particularly perhaps in a larger organisation, but like you said, it's the same in all organisation. It's really just what resources you have available.
I think systems are very important if you want to move. Um, but of course, having too many processes can also be can also like stifle innovation, right? Because everything has to go through, let's say, an approval or something like that. It stops innovation. So you want to figure out like what your ideal balance there is. Um, but having a process or a system guarantees movement. There is some output, there is some outcome. Timelines are a very good thing. Constraints are a very good thing. They're not bad. And I also think that, creativity is a continuous process. It's not like, you need to wait for that one amazing idea 6 months down the line. You can improvise, you can iterate,
Mm,
right? You can come up with something today and meet your timeline and then change it next week, right? As long as you have the right reasons for it. Decision making is very important. You need to make decisions. It may not be the right decisions, but you need to have the framework to make the decision with what you have. Um, as long as you have the right framework for behavior and making decisions, I think you will be fine. But I think my opinion on systems is that if you want to actually have progress, you need to have systems and processes. You just need to design it well so that people are people have the luxury of making decisions. People know how to make decisions. Um, let's say, for example, for us, it's very important that we have this back and forth with our clients. We argue what we are doing, why we are doing it, and how it's going to move the business needle. We don't just do what we're told. All of these things is very important for my team to know. And that forms the framework of making decisions. But they do know that at the end of 2 weeks, we need our sprint is going to get over and we need to deliver something. So that timeline is also very important. At the end of the day, as long as you have these timelines, you will have some progress.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, finding that balance between too many systems, too many processes that end up being bureaucracy and stifle innovation, but at the same time knowing where the decisions that have been made and who makes the decisions, how they're made. Yeah.
Why did you mentioned that when you were working previously, people used to say that creativity happens anytime. Like, what was the what were the processes that they were trying to fight?
What we were trying to implement at the time was getting well. There was sort of a process in place, but it wasn't. It was by default. That's the way it happened. So there were people in a research division. So this was a chemical company. It was before software. There were people in the research division. They had ideas. They pushed out ideas, and it was very much research driven. And a lot of those people in that research division didn't see customers very often. Then they'd push that out to a marketing department who often didn't see customers that often either, who then developed a marketing program around the product. And then it was given to the sales team who did see customers regularly, and they were told, you need to go sell this to customers. Now, of course, they sometimes had products that it wasn't clear where they actually fitted to a customer need. So they had to either go out and explore where is a customer need that this might fit. And when I got involved in this, I said, that's all the wrong way around. We need to bring that all together at the beginning. We need to bring all these steps into parallel. So the salespeople who are talking to the customers up front, they need to be feeding in at the beginning before the idea even gets off the paper and into the laboratory. They need to be feeding in, here's the problems the customer's having, here's the issues they're having, here's where the current products are falling short, this is what we need. And then the research people can say, well, as a matter of fact, we can do that. We can fix that part, or we can develop a new product that will address all those things. And then bring the marketing people in there as well, because they can start to think about, well, what would the message look like? And at the early prototype, so your MVP type thing, say, okay, now we need to give something to the customer, and it might be a laboratory sample, and say, can you take a look at this and tell us what you think? So that's the process we had, where we had, instead of the silos, the research, the marketing, the sales, and then the customer, and it went down that silo and then down that silo, and then we brought it all across that way and had the process driving it through, and every department, including the customer early on, were involved. And as it turned out, the initial resistance was, well, we've always done it this way, and that's going to stifle our creativity because we're being told up front what we should be doing rather than coming up with these wild ideas that might be brilliant, but not necessarily a market fit. And the first project we did there, we turned around in about 6 months, whereas our average turnaround time before that had been something like 3 years. We
Wow.
turned around in 6 months, and it turned out to be a sale of about a $5 million product in the first year. So
Wow.
that was pretty significant.
That's an amazing result. You know, I the exact same thing that the distance between the end customer and a software developer is huge.
Mm.
That's exactly what I'm trying to fight every
Yeah.
day. That's how I measure, like, do we have too many processes? That has to be, and you have all the tools today, right? Like, this is a very good example to use AI. Like, let's say our customers, if they're talking to their customers, they can have a conversation which is recorded, and then AI can just give a transcript to my team, for example, if they can't be part of that call. There's so many ways now that you can reduce this gap, you know. But I
Mm.
think, yeah, if there are processes that sort of are increasing it, I need to fight it. And I'm just looking at this metric, is that distance just 0 hops away? Like, I should just be able to talk to the founders
Yeah.
directly. That's when we're actually like the results that you're telling me, it's insane. I mean, 3 years to six
Mm.
months, that's an amazing outcome.
Mm. Yeah, and it's not all that difficult to achieve either once you kind of change your thinking and your approach. Yeah.
It's a mindset
Mm.
change.
Well, yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it's a fascinating conversation. I'm just aware of our timeline here, and I think it's a good point now to move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's focused very much on keeping our human connection and humanity in the age of AI. So short, punchy answers, hopefully inspiring the listener to do something awesome today.
Okay.
So you all set?
Yeah, let's do it.
So first one's around innovation. What's the most innovative way you've seen AI used to strengthen human relationships?
Wow. Okay. Mm, I really like uh, this AI tool that we're using that actually helps us take interviews better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what it sort of does is it sort of prods you to look at the camera, um, to uh, to make sure. So many times you'll find people who are on a video call, but they don't actually look at the camera. They'll be playing on their phone, doing other things. But I feel like it constantly nudges you to build an actual connection, even though it's virtual. But I really like that. I think that's a good feature.
Mm. So what's that tool called?
I'll send you the name. I don't remember. It's a plugin on Google
Oh,
Hangout, but
right.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, because I always find that a bit of a challenge because they say, okay, you've got to look at the camera, which I'm doing now, but I've done it. I've designed my little system so that I've got your image just underneath the
Sure.
camera, and which means that I'm looking at you, but it looks as though I'm looking at the camera. Mm. All right. Now, thinking about your own experience, what's the best thing you've done to integrate AI in a way that um, enhances that human connection?
I Interesting. How have I used AI to enhance human connection? Mm. I'm actually actively trying to not use AI. Uh, I sometimes
So
avo-
avoiding it when
avoid
human.
AI to enhance human connection. I feel like,
Okay.
whenever I look at social media, and every time I read a post, I'm just able to sense when somebody's used AI, because it's like, really
Yeah, yeah,
long, and they have all these words like, I don't know, fluff or something like that.
yeah,
So yeah, I would say avoid using AI if that's your goal.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, and finally, and we touched on this a little bit, but what in this day and age of AI, what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves to
Yes.
keep that sort of humanity and the authentic human connection?
I think marketing would be the number one focus if you're a founder. Um, you really need, I mean, you have the tools today to be in front of whoever you want. It's just the way that you do it needs to be different. So I would suggest video seems to be a means that works a lot. So I think text is commoditized. Everybody's become a social media expert because of GPT. Anybody can write. Of course, the quality of writing may be different, but it's very hard to find a quality writer when you have so many. But I don't think we've reached there with video. So if you want to differentiate yourself, I really feel like the place where the least noise is are platforms where you're able to express what you do via video.
Yeah, that's. I think that's really, really valuable advice, and there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and Snapchat's video, of course, and Instagram. You can do quick video on Instagram and Facebook, but I think there's a huge opportunity still for doing that. It's a little bit like podcasts as well. There's lots of podcasts out there, but there's still an opportunity for podcasting, and of course video adds that extra dimension where you can see people, you can see the expression, their hand movements, their body language, and so on. So there's a much higher level of that connection that comes through there through the virtual medium.
And I also think that in terms of YouTube, I think there's a lot of people creating content, but most of it is entertainment. There is very little that's educational, especially business focused, B2B focused. I'm not saying there isn't content that is focused over here, but it's lesser when compared to, let's say, a text-based medium like LinkedIn or anything else. So I think there is a gap that people can utilize. But then again, you really need to figure out if someone's actually going to take the time to watch your videos. You don't want to use AI. I think people are really looking for authenticity. People want to see a human. There are ways in which you can create AI videos, and you may give me examples saying, hey, this channel is doing so many thousands in views and they only have AI videos, but their goal is very different. Their goal is views. Your goal is to build a human relationship with your target. And they will find you here because there is less noise, and they may not find you as early as you want on other channels. So be you, right? Use video.
Excellent. Great advice. All right. Well, thanks for getting us through the buzz round. Now, where can people find out more about you, Ali, and also about Wednesday Solutions, and maybe even get in touch and say thanks for what you've shared with us today?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a founder and you're looking for help with building your digital product, or just looking for a really good product engineering team, you can reach us at Wednesday.is. There is a contact us button. You can just reach us there, or you can say hi to me on LinkedIn. I'm Ali Hafizji. We can chat.
Excellent. And of course, we'll have those links in the show notes so people can click straight through. So as we wrap things up, what's one specific action you'd like listeners to take out of our conversation today?
For me, I think, if you're a listener and you're really thinking about building a business, I would say now is the time to build. You have everything around you that you can use to build out whatever you plan. And then once you face that roadblock saying, you're not growing, I'm just building, etc., you know where to find us. But I really think that we are in the age where, you don't really need a lot of external help to get started, at least. So do that. Now is the time.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Great call to action. And thanks so much for sharing your insights with us so generously today. It's been a fascinating conversation, and all the best for the future. And please do stay in touch.
Thank you.